Seems like a big topic in Call of Duty right now is maps. The amount of maps, quality of maps, map design. I feel like I'm hearing a lot about maps. And it's important for me to get this sort of topic out here because it matters to me for whatever stupid reason. So let's talk about Modern Warfare's maps. These maps were very contentious. A lot of talk about how campy they were and how many sightlines there were and how complicated or large they were. And while those are important to look at, I do not think that Modern Warfare's maps were the problem. Because Modern Warfare, let's face it, it had problems. I think it's a better game than Black Ops Cold War. I think it's a much more solid title, a much more Call of Duty-esque title than Cold War. I think there's something about Modern Warfare that's intrinsically better. I don't know if that's the word, but just an improvement on the franchise. A really quick example is that Modern Warfare makes me feel like a kid playing COD 4. See, when I was a kid and first played COD 4 and World at War and Modern Warfare 2, they were gritty and realistic, and they were really tactile, and they were really, really in-depth to me because I was a kid and Call of Duty was a big deal at the time. And Modern Warfare gave me that feeling as an adult. Now, a much more rational version of that feeling that's not, I don't think it's a milsim game, I don't think it's depicting real life, but I think it's depicting Call of Duty in a much better way. What Call of Duty was going for in 2007, I feel like is finally realized with Modern Warfare 2019. And the multiplayer speaks that. Modern Warfare's multiplayer speaks the same design language as classic Call of Duty. I'm talking COD 4 to Black Ops 1, or honestly COD 4 to Modern Warfare 3. It's speaking that design language. Call of Duty Ghosts tried this a while back, it didn't work. But Call of Duty Ghosts lacked detail, it lacked visual quality. It was an ugly game launching at a very interesting time with no name recognition. It was very, very messy. But either way, Modern Warfare, despite being a good game in my opinion, has a lot of problems, and I've ranted about them all throughout its life cycle. I even have gone as far as to say that Infinity Ward lost my trust and my respect due to just how poorly they interacted with us as a community of people that are actually trying to interact with them. And I feel like that was a really bad call. Now, I do have some bias and some anecdotal evidence based on my experience with Modern Warfare. I didn't find it to be a very campy game at all. I found it to be a much more classic style Call of Duty, which is a lot of move, hold, shoot, move, hold, shoot. You move to an area, you kill people, and you leave. Otherwise, if you stay in that area too long, you're bound to be blown up by an RPG or C4 or double grenades or whatever it might be. If the enemies you're fighting are smart. A lot of times in Modern Warfare, I don't think people adapted very well, but that's fine because sometimes you don't want to. It's very frustrating to adapt all the time. And I don't think you should adapt to broken things, but I do think I also held singular positions and got too many kills from singular positions too many times. And I feel like, the enemies I fought could have been a little smarter about that. But moving on. My experience was that Modern Warfare was not an obsessively campy game that people were obsessing about. I knew where the problem was. Like when people would talk about double claymore camping, people never moving all game, can't run anywhere, you don't want to move because it's just too terrible. I could experience it on command. Just by going to the quick play filter and selecting team deathmatch or free for all, I could get into those games where people just don't move. But then I go and play Domination, and I would have fast-paced, sweaty games. And same with Hardpoint, and Headquarters, and Demolition, and my friends will attest to this. Okay, we only played objective game modes. When I would load into TDM, now my friends, two of my friends, only pretty much played TDM back in the day, and with Modern Warfare, they would get actually angry at me because of how stark the difference was if I loaded up TDM. If I loaded up TDM, they'd be like, why the fuck did you put TDM in the quick play filter? And they'd be pissed at me because of just how different it was. But why was it so different? Where was this camping problem coming from? It's hard to explain, but I'm going to try my best to do it simply. So, in my opinion, Modern Warfare's camping problem was in Team Deathmatch because of a philosophy that I've now kind of created based on my experience with past Battlefield games and now with Modern Warfare 2019. I think that maps only really make up for about 2/5 of the flow of an FPS game. Then I believe another fifth belongs to the player base. Depending on whether you're playing in a ranked or casual playlist with differently minded players, maps will play differently. Then player movement and speed, so whether or not they have advanced movement, unlimited sprint, the ability to high mantle. But then the bottom fifth is a bit of a cop-out, and I'm of course pulling these numbers out of my ass. This is just my personal experience that I'm trying to reflect to you guys here. Basically, the last fifth is everything else around the game. That means, how do kill streaks work? How does sound work? I guess you could put that in the movement category, but it's important to say, like, how loud are footsteps? And is there a way to counter the noise of your own footsteps? How does the mini-map work? Does it show unsuppressed fire? So let me paint to you 3 things that would have fixed Modern Warfare's camping problem and a lot of the issues people have. Because when people talk about Modern Warfare, they don't tell me it's an ugly game, graphically unappealing, bad gunplay. They don't talk about that. I rarely ever hear any complaints outside of camping safe space warfare. It's not the maps. It's the fact that when you die, you lose all progress towards your streak, which I think you should, but the only way to gain more progress is by killing. There's no point streaks, and there's no score streaks. Score streaks were built into the game with the perk Point Man, but nobody's going to pick Point Man over Ghost, or Hardline, or Overkill. So I'm not going to factor that into this discussion, but if there were score streaks or point streaks instead of kill streaks, if you could work towards your VTOL, your UAV even, your chopper gunner, if you could work towards that by playing objectives in Modern Warfare, I guarantee you, there would have been a lot more movement. I feel like I would have had way fewer bad teammate interactions when I'm playing objective game modes if my teammates were encouraged to play the objective with me. There were so many times in Modern Warfare I would be on the B flag because I'm not playing with friends and I'm just playing with randoms, and I'd watch a teammate just watch me. They'd bait me so they could get points for killing whoever comes and kills me because they're working towards their streak. They didn't want to risk their streak by going on the objective, because going on the objective puts a target on your back. And if you're not going to get any score towards your score streak or your kill streak or whatever, then what's the point? So when I would play with my friends, I'd have them play the objective and I'd go for streaks because I'm pretty good at killing people, especially when the enemies are distracted. But I'd stay far, far away from a hard point if I wanted a VTOL. And I think that, a VTOL would be fun to call in and it would get me some extra kills and help us win the game. So that's going to be what I do. So I avoid the objective and I go around the edges and I shoot the people moving towards the objective. And a lot of people would also be holding back. I'd notice when I'd flank them, I'd see some other people playing very cautiously or watching the hard point from a distance because they might want to get a streak as well. But I think previous Call of Duty games like Black Ops 2 really proved that score streaks are superior to kill streaks because people will actually feel really rewarded for playing the objective, and I think that should have come into play with Modern Warfare. So I think permanent score streaks would have saved it. Now, Dead Silence and Amplify being perks is something I've spoken in favor of because the community's been speaking in favor of it, and I think, that was heavily requested ever since the beta. So yeah, I didn't actually have a problem with that being introduced, but it never was, but whatever. I personally, though, I don't mind Dead Silence being a field upgrade. But what I do mind, and what frustrates me, is that the Ghost perk hid you even when you weren't moving. And there were suppressors that actually gave your guns more damage range. And that slowed down your gun as well. So it would be really, really smart if you wanted a camp to run a monolithic suppressor, and then no one will be able to find your ass. And there were so many times in Modern Warfare I would get killed by somebody camping or just locking down a power position or something. And because I don't think those two are the same thing necessarily. I think if you play any Call of Duty game, people are going to go up into a building and use a window to shoot down on you. I think that's how they all play. But, whether they're sitting in a corner or controlling a power position, my teammates wouldn't have any idea that I died. So if you have teammates that aren't paying full attention, then a camper will get away with camping for a lot longer. So I think Ghost should have only hid you while moving, similar to Black Ops 2's Ghost. That would have fixed that issue right quick, because then a UAV, and remember, I also have score streaks in the mix, so you can get a UAV by playing the objective, and a UAV reveals campers that aren't moving. That changes so many dynamics, I don't even need to go into them, but there's one little thing I would add. This doesn't go into my top 3, but I also would say that suppressors needed to actually nerf guns, not give them more bonuses. So like the tactical suppressor slows your gun down a bit but doesn't do anything else, and then the monolithic suppressor adds range and slows your gun down a bit more. And I think they all should have just reduced your range or your bullet velocity by 10%. Because there's no reason to promote that unless you want to promote people slowing down their gun and being hidden, which of course caters towards slower, more methodical camping playstyles. You could really throw off teams, by the way, by playing Modern Warfare using the tune-up perk, getting Dead Silence fast, and using a suppressed SMG and flanking people, because a lot of people use their suppressed SMGs to sit in buildings, and I noticed it throughout the entire life cycle, trust me. It was tons less prevalent in objective modes, but I still knew why it was happening. And this last thing also has to do with the minimap. The minimap shows unsuppressed fire. Okay, the minimap in Call of Duty core modes past, and now in Cold War's present, which I'm very happy this is back, you are punished for firing an unsuppressed weapon. To a degree. The mini-map is your best friend and your worst enemy in Call of Duty. It always has been, and in Modern Warfare, people had to pay attention to the compass, which could help you track down an enemy's location, but it didn't let you pinpoint their location. So a camper, in my ideal Modern Warfare, their suppressors would nerf their range, and so if they used the suppressor to hide from me, their gun was a little less effective. Ghost only hid them while moving, so they couldn't sit in a corner and be invisible to my UAV. And people got scored towards their streaks by playing the objective, so they didn't feel like they needed to hide from the action in order to get their streaks faster or easier. So I know it's more like 4 things instead of 3, but I can't ever keep my thoughts straight. But I hope you understand my point. I don't think Modern Warfare's maps are bad. I think Modern Warfare's maps alone promoted multiple gameplay styles, but the mechanics surrounding them really catered towards one. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that we'll never get to see a version of Modern Warfare 6v6 with everybody having score streaks, suppressors reducing range and velocity, the Ghost perk only hiding you while you're moving, and unsuppressed fire showing up on the minimap for easy pinpointing. I think that version of Modern Warfare would have felt way more like classic COD 4, Black Ops 1, Modern Warfare 2, because those are the games that I love. Those are the experiences that I love from Call of Duty. I don't mind super fast time to kill, I don't mind messy maps with lots of angles to get shot from. What I don't like is encouraging people to hold still. There's other little things too, like the fact that the Claymore is the first lethal you unlock, and so as soon as you get shrapnel, you can double Claymore a building and tack insert inside of it. There's crazy shit like that. Tons of little things could have made Modern Warfare a lot more fun, like the EMP grenades from Black Ops 2. Can you imagine fighting a camper with those EMP grenades, especially when you can change your class mid-match? So you think, okay, there's a lot of campers in this lobby, I'm gonna troll them. You put on 2 EMP grenades and you just start chucking them into the buildings, destroying their tack inserts and their claymores, just uprooting them constantly if they want to go back to the same building all game and sit in a corner and wait for you to walk into a landmine. Shit's annoying. I spent all year in Modern Warfare avoiding non-objective game modes. Unless it was 10v10, but even then, those matches could get really stalematey and people wouldn't be able to flank because there's too many people on either side of the map and they just sort of hold cover. So yeah, the maps already catered towards multiple playstyles. Flanking, rushing, camping, sniping, sneaking, lurking, whatever you want to call it, whatever playstyles you want to mention, they already catered to that because the maps themselves were varied. These mechanics turn the varied nature of the maps and sort of turn that variedness into a disadvantage for the core mechanics of the game. So let me put it a different way. I said this earlier in Modern Warfare's life cycle, but I'm going to add something to it. So in contrast to the Call of Duties that came before Modern Warfare, a slower COD game is welcome. A stagnant one is not. And so many of the issues I think people had in Modern Warfare would have been solved by the things I'm talking about. It would have changed the demeanor around the game. It still would have been varied. It still would have been far away from the advanced movement clusterfucks that turned so many people away from the franchise, but it could have been a bit faster, a bit more like Call of Duty, and a little less like trying to look like Insurgency on the outside, while still maintaining Call of Duty. It was a total example of identity crisis with the developers. I think they wanted the game to be more realistic and more centered around player observation without realizing that that kind of hurts Call of Duty's core mechanics here. And if people want that more realistic, hardcore experience, literally there's a mode called hardcore mode and a mode called realism, so that's where they can go if they want that, and they did. And there was an entire community of people that thought that hardcore mode in Modern Warfare was essentially like real life, and that's where they went because they wanted that more methodical, tactical experience, and awesome, more power to them. But core mode is different, and it's supposed to be different. So even if what I just said came to pass and Dead Silence and Amplify were perks, you'd still have camping because of the nature of the maps, but it wouldn't be directly encouraged. And you'd feel probably more confident moving around at faster speeds. So either way, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you when I see you. Goodbye.